Guys, welcome to the I Love CVille Show. It's great to be with you on a Monday. We hope the weekend treated you well. It was a gorgeous weekend across Central Virginia. Spent some time in Father's Day at the ACAC Adventure Pool, Adventure Central on Four Seasons. Went to Three Notch. Went to Guajiros, the Cuban restaurant on 29. So I had a fabulous Father's Day. This show, guys, I think you're really going to like. A lot of news broke over the weekend, and specifically the Dewberry Hotel news. Where he's considering a pivot, John Dewberry is, from a hotel to potentially luxury condos or apartments. We'll talk about that with Dave Norris. I think it's smoke and mirrors and perhaps BS, but we will see. I would think that a hotel and many hotel units within a hotel in totality would make this businessman, and he's clearly a businessman, much more revenue than 8 condos for sale or 8 apartments for rent. We'll talk about that with Dave Norris. We'll welcome him shortly. Let's thank Interstate Pest and Service Companies for being a part of this program. Interstate Pest and Service Companies since 1969 has been Central Virginia, Albemarle County, Charlottesville, and the Commonwealth's pest control leader. We're their proud advertising agency of record. The business started in 1969 with Mr. Wells, one man and one truck. He would go to the first home, service them successfully, then go to the closest payphone and call his client or his customer from a payphone and say, "May I go see you now?" Today, almost 100 employees, a 4-generation strong family, and a Commonwealth-wide footprint with the headquarters right around the corner from Bodo's Bagels, an office in Richmond, and an office in the Shenandoah Valley. Love to celebrate entrepreneurial journeys like that at I Love CVille. We also give some props to one of our favorite clients as well, Dr. Scott Wagner of Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. Physical therapy, sports medicine, and chiropractic care. The man's changing people's lives. Who's got your back? Dr. Wagner's got your back. We love working with this client, making his commercials and his social media happen, and certainly enjoy him. See, Terry, this is an opportunity if I went unscripted at your event, what could happen here? But it would all be great. I would relay it back to you. Teri Kent's going to join us in moments. Love this lady. Love this man here, Dave Norris. Let's go to the two-shot. Let's welcome Dave to the show. I'm going to stop talking now and get Dave on the horn. Tuesday, election.
Election day, yeah.
Talk to us. What surprised you? What caught you? What caught your attention?
Well, I think the outcome of the local House of Delegates primary in the 57th district, not so much the fact that Sally Hudson won, but the margin of the victory, I think, was a surprise to many people. Maybe not to Sally and her team, but to
surprise to me.
Yeah, and I had been publicly quoted as saying I thought it was going to be a close race, and I was wrong, man. It was definitely a blowout, and I think it's testament to Sally and the campaign that she ran and the effort she put into it and the message that she delivered, and she just knocked it out of the park. And so all credit to Sally and her team for a pretty resounding victory.
Let me throw this to you.
Yeah.
It seems like voting mindsets are changing dramatically. Mm-hmm. We saw this with AOC.
Yeah.
In New York.
Yeah.
Progressive, younger candidates making an impact. Throw that to you.
Well, I think it's I think the Democrats are having something of a Tea Party moment of their own, in the last couple of years, and it's not around one defining issue like it was with Obamacare necessarily, but it's a reaction to the Trump election in 2016, and there's a lot of progressive energy around the country and here locally, and that obviously carried Sally to victory. It carried Michael Payne to victory. I don't know if everybody thought that Michael was going to come in first. I think a lot of us assumed he was, or felt like he was going to win one of the 3 slots, but the fact that he came in first in a fairly comfortable margin.
7 of 9 precincts.
Yeah, won 7 of 9 precincts. I think it speaks to this energy within the political sphere around bold progressive change, and Sally and Michael definitely tapped into that.
I was one that, and we were in agreement on this topic and both topics. Mm-hmm. I had Lloyd as the clear-cut favorite. The reason I had Lloyd as the clear-cut favorite was because of the name recognition,
right,
institution in the community as a defense attorney, the war chest with fundraising.
Sure.
So clear barometers.
Yeah.
He was a planning commissioner, one-time chair of the Democratic Party.
Right.
So he'd been around the block. Michael, I believe, is 26, younger. He's watching now. And I was taken aback. And we had Michael on the show. I gave him props. I said, I thought Lloyd was going to beat you. I was wrong.
Right.
What do you make of Payne? How did you think Payne won 7 of 9 precincts?
Well, I think Michael had a very clear message that resonated with the voters, and that's that goes a long way when you can speak to the concerns of the community in a very compelling way, in a very clear way. He worked hard. He was doing a lot of outreach, and in every single forum, interview, candidate questionnaire, I felt like he always had the most well-developed, well-thought-out answers. He obviously put a lot of time into researching the issues, and he's been involved. You know, he's been going to city council meetings. He's been
for like 3 years.
He's been engaged, and people, I think, respect the fact that he's a thoughtful guy who has a lot to offer the community.
You're getting props here from Elliot Harding. Herb Porter says hello.
Hey, Herb.
Abby Guskin is watching. She says hello. Keith Smith, one of our friends, is watching the program right now. Gilly Garth, Stephen Lewis Warner.
Jiley Garth.
Jiley Garth. Sorry,
Yeah.
I messed that up all the time. Jiley, I will never make that mistake again. Dave Norris is, wow. Dave Norris is getting some props right now. I will get to that message here shortly. This is what surprised me, and you touched on it already. What surprised me was Sally's large disparity, like you said, over Kathy Galvin. I agreed with you. I thought Kathy Galvin's name recognition, especially with institutional voters or legacy voters, would have carried more weight. The one that really surprised me, well, Michael Payne beating Lloyd Snook surprised me in the manner that he did. 7 of 9 precincts, only alumni and Walker he didn't take.
Yeah.
This is what I was most surprised. Sina McGill creeping into the top 3, because I thought Brian Pinkston had built late momentum, and I thought Pinkston was going to get some of the votes. Michael Payne on the show made this point. There was a ballot that was being passed out at a lot of the election spots, and that ballot had Kathy checked, Pinkston checked, and Lloyd checked.
Yeah.
A sample ballot.
Yeah.
And maybe it worked against Pinkston.
It could have. I mean, I think the effort and the movement was going in the direction, you know, in Michael's direction and Sally's direction, and so anybody that was aligned otherwise may have suffered as a result. But I don't think, you know, I got to meet Brian, and I think he's a genuine, earnest guy, but I don't think he came forward with some clear sort of policy solutions or proposals or ideas.
It was nebulous.
It was very nebulous, right?
Yeah.
And Sina, you know, to her credit, had floated some things, and you know, I think she just put a lot of effort, put a lot of heart into it. It wasn't that big of a margin, you know, between her and Brian, so it could have gone either way. But I give her props for pulling through at the end.
How do you think it's going to shake out? And I'm going to throw this to you. I think there's one guy. I'm a huge Bellamy Brown fan.
Yeah.
He's come on the show a number of times. I think he's moderate. I think he's small business focused.
Yeah.
He's got the Marine background.
Yeah.
JMU grad. Grew up in the area.
Yeah.
Straight up says on the show, I've lived on both sides of the tracks in town, metaphorically.
Right. Yeah.
And how do you see a Bellamy Brown potentially going after the 3 Dems?
Well, he is a real threat, and I think for all the reasons you just said, and it's just a question of whether his campaign's going to gel, whether his messaging is going to gel, whether he's going to tap into, you know, the right sort of political undercurrents to sweep him into victory in November. It's you know, as we've discussed before, there's only one person who's pulled it off in 70 years, and that's
Mayor
Kyle
Walker. Right.
So it's not an easy thing to do, but he does have the qualities that could make him quite competitive in November, and you know, I think partly it's going to depend on sort of what his strategy ends up being. If he's trying to run to the right of the Democratic Party and capture the Republicans and independents in town, that's probably not enough to get him elected, right? We've had some very, I think, capable, intelligent, compelling candidates run sort of in that lane in recent years, and who didn't end up coming close to winning. And so he's really got to, I think, tap into a broader base, and I think he's very aware of that fact, and tap into some of the dissatisfaction that's out there about decisions that the city has made or priorities that the city has set in recent years. And I think he could pull it off, but it's definitely not it's not going to be an easy ride. So.
Let's keep the sizzle reel going. This will be an entire sizzle reel,
Right.
a longer form
All
one.
right.
You're getting a lot of props. In fact, you're going to love this. Joseph Baden is watching
From
live
Ghana.
in Ghana right now. Literally watching in Ghana.
I love it.
Power of social media.
I love
he
it.
goes, watching live in Ghana. Love you, Dave. Abby says, Guskin said you nailed that answer. Catherine Slaughter says, Dave, we love you.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Barbara Lundgren, hi, CVille Dave. You're missed. Bob Shada's giving you some props right now.
These are all great people.
Great people.
Hello to all my friends in Ghana. I appreciate you watching.
People watching in Ghana right now. Put that into perspective right there. Let me throw this to you. This is an interesting strategy. There are 3 spots that are open on council.
Yeah.
Will the Dems choose to run on one ticket from a strategy standpoint? You think so?
Absolutely.
Payne's politics are so different
They
than
are.
Lloyd's.
They are.
Will that not, in some ways, marginalize Payne and Lloyd's efforts until this point?
Well, this is the dilemma that always occurs at this this time, at this step in the process.
This is why I love this stuff.
Right. You got candidates who oftentimes come from very different perspectives and backgrounds who now are on a ticket together. And yes, there is definitely going to be an expectation that they will run as a ticket. There's no doubt about it. And so, a Bellamy Brown's got to figure out which one of those three is he going to try to pick off,
Well, I think strategy would say it's Cena McGill. And I'm not knocking Cena. The only reason I'm saying this, and I'm basing it on barometers, people say, oh, you make these comments, it's personal preference. No, it's not personal preference. It's tied to fundraising. And it's tied to the number of votes won got in the Democratic primary.
Yeah.
So clearly she got the least amount of votes of the three, and she has the least amount of money from a war chest standpoint. So if you're Bellamy Brown, wouldn't that make sense? That's who you would pick up?
Maybe, although I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know that there's as vivid a contrast there as there could be with a couple of the others. I haven't talked to Bellamy about what his strategy is going to be. My guess is that he's going to say, I'm not going to aim for any one of the three. I'm just going to put myself out there and my message out there and hope it resonates. And that's a perfectly legitimate strategy. But at the end of the day, just realistically, he's going to have to beat one of those three in order to get in office. And so again, how he frames his message, how he frames his campaign is going to be really important moving forward.
If you were a betting man, how do you see the three playing out? And I know you're not endorsing.
Right, I can't endorse.
You're spitballing for the sake of a talk show. I'll throw the odds out there.
Okay, you tell me your odds.
I think after what we saw in the primary, Payne is now a favorite.
Yes.
And I'd say Payne is, say, like a 3-1. After we saw in the primary, Lloyd maybe 4.5, 5-1. I'm going to slide Bellamy in there, and the third slot is maybe like a 6.5 to 1, and Cena McGill maybe potentially like 8 to 1, and I think Hall and Long have no shot. And maybe perhaps they're not trying to win. Yeah. They're trying to get a message out there, perhaps.
Yeah. No, I don't think either of them runs to win. They like to be part of the debate, and that's their right. But I'm not sure. I mean, if you just look at the numbers from Tuesday, that analysis makes sense. But it'll depend in part on sort of what some of the activist groups do in terms of who they're getting behind, who they're supporting with their time and energy and money. And they played, I think, a pretty important role both in the delegate race and in the council race.
Indivisible Charlottesville.
Indivisible, some of the other groups that got DSA that got involved with some of the candidates and supported some of the candidates. I could see a compelling argument, hypothetically, to get behind McGill, Payne, and Brown. As Brown as somebody who grew up here, African American, grew up in a working class African American community, wants to do right by his community. He may approach things from a different perspective than a Wes Bellamy does or a Nikiah Walker does, but at the end of the day,
I think he totally does.
Right, but at the end of the day, that's
he wants
his
what's
heart.
best for Charlottesville, right?
And he wants what's best for Charlottesville, and particularly wants best for
African-American
the neighborhoods that he grew up in, and the community he grew up in. And so, so I don't know. It's going to be interesting how that plays out, but I don't know that Cena is necessarily the weak link in the chain. And of course, again, this is all hypothetical,
yeah.
and again,
people are loving it. For
Bellamy to win in November, the stars will have to align, and but that dude could pull it off.
Let me throw this to you and keep the sizzle reel going here. Yeah. This is great stuff. I love doing this.
Yeah.
How will Pinkston and Fenwick's votes shake out? Because Pinkston got 3,000 plus. He missed Cena McGill in the third slot by like 110 votes. Fenwick got over a little 1,000, lopsided. Yeah. Still, there's like 4,000 plus votes out there that are going to shake out to somebody. How did those votes shake out come November 5th?
Well, again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but I think it's going to depend on how Bellamy Brown frames his message, And so if he decides that I'm going to go to the right and go down that Republican independent lane, I don't think he's going to find it a very lucrative kind of a path forward. But if he goes hard at, I want to do what's right for my community, I can bring a different perspective, I want transparency and truth in government, I want better decision making, whatever, I think he could tap into a lot of those voters. And Pinkston's voters, my guess, are going to go with the Democratic ticket. They seem to be sort of party line voters. Fenwick's people are not party line voters, so they could go in any direction.
How do UVA students impact the election at all, from your experience?
Very little.
Okay.
They tend to be registered to vote in their hometowns.
Got it.
Many of them don't even live in the city. The ones that are registered to vote locally, many of them live, or most of them live in the county. A lot of people don't know that UVA itself is in the county. It's not in the city. So there's very few students, or relatively few students, that live in the city. But again, with this sort of movement towards getting younger people involved in politics, it certainly could have an impact.
And a couple hundred votes can go a long way in determining this election.
Absolutely.
Which we saw in the primary. A couple more questions, and we're going to welcome the fabulous Teri Kent to the program to spotlight what she has going on Thursday at the Paramount, which I think is big time, and all are invited. So we're Garrett Klingel's watching, Dan Epstein, formerly of Eppies, is watching.
We love.
Jacob Herring is watching, Wesley Burrell is watching at SNL, Harry Lynn is watching, Shelley Robb, Mary Margaret Matthews Gentry is watching, Asher McLaughlin, the musician, a lot of folks watching now. Down the road, throw two hypotheticals to you.
Right. Uh-huh.
If the three Dems win,
Yeah.
that would be Snook, Payne, and McGill. Hypothetically spitballing with you,
Yeah.
Mayor Walker, Sina McGill, and Michael Payne could do a voter block for the next 3 years and determine a lot of policy, determine a lot of the future of Charlottesville. That's the first hypothetical, what if, to you.
Yeah.
The second hypothetical is if Bellamy, Snook, and Payne get the W, then you potentially have a voter block of Heather Hill, Lloyd Snook, and Bellamy Brown controlling a lot of policy, because those three, their politics somewhat align. I think Snook is kind of seen as a moderate. He's getting some commentary that he's conservative when he's openly said, I'm a lifelong Democrat.
Right.
I think Bellamy is moderate. I think Heather is moderate. What are your thoughts on those three hypotheticals and voter blocks moving forward?
Well, under each of those scenarios, I think there's a swing vote there, right? So Sina would be sort of a swing vote, and I don't know Sina very well personally, but given her background and given what people who do know her well have told me, I think you're right in that she will tend to align more with Nikai and Michael on some things, maybe not on everything. And then the scenario two, I think Bellamy would be the swing vote there.
Big time.
And so, which I think is probably healthy to have, some give and take and back and forth on council. And I never liked the idea that council has to be a monolithic voting block. I think it's good to have dissension and debate. Healthy debate is good for our democracy. So I think we're going to be in fine shape, honestly, under either scenario. And one thing is definitely clear is that there are some issues that are going to get a lot more attention. Like housing, like economic justice, and under any scenario, I think that moving forward, and so those of us who are involved in the housing arena, I think we have to be prepared for some new attention, and that's, I think, going to be a plus for our whole community.
One more question for Dave, and this will be the end of the first sizzle reel. Then we get Teri in the mix here. Gerard Smith, who's watching now, ran in the Rivanna District Board of Supervisors race. He lost a nip and tuck affair.
That was close. Yeah.
Very close.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on the race? And the second part is, only once in the history of the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors has an African American gotten a seat on the Board of Supervisors. That's startling to me. Judah, if you could take care of that for me.
Yeah. No, I was interested to see Mayor Walker's comments on that race. I don't know enough about the dynamics of that district to know why it ended up the way it did. Gerard, I would have bet, if I were a betting man, I would have bet that he would have prevailed. But he came very close, and I hope he does run again in the future. It seems like he has a lot to offer. But yeah, it's the demographics are a little bit different in the county than they are in the city. But it is striking that we've only had one African American supervisor. It is startling, and hopefully with some organizing and some outreach and some engagement, we can change that over time. But it takes people like Gerard Smith sticking with it not letting one bump in the road deter you, but staying involved. And I certainly get that sense that that's what he plans to do. So
we'll relay some of the messages, and we'll get Teri in the mix. Catherine Slaughter, Lloyd Snook is a progressive on racial issues, economic and social justice, affordable housing. Lloyd, Cena, and Mike are all natives of CVille. That's who she picks. She also says the three Dems agree on a lot of the major issues. I see them voting as a block. Abby Guskin says Lloyd's tagline was "Let's work together." We will see if that's his true message. Only time will tell. He needs to get all community members involved. He has a lot of fences to mend. It will be interesting to see Bellamy bringing in a full force to the table. Thank you, Dave, for your input. Catherine also is thanking you for your input. Amy Carter, welcome to the show. Jason Boofy Johnson, Ray Jordan, Brittany Castavas. City Hall is watching right now. City Hall has actually asked me not to mention their names when they are watching.
So just a nebulous City Hall.
I told them if they're going to tune in, I'm going to call them City Hall. And they're like, I will agree with you not to mention their names. I think they're just trying to check.
I get it.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
That's
Let me throw Teri Kent in the mix, and then you jump in. Let's have a friendly, good discussion. First, Teri Kent, let's talk about the first, hello.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Great. How are you guys?
We're
you guys
doing
are,
great.
woo, I love this.
We are local political junkies.
Yeah.
I just love the stuff, so does he.
Well, my first time on the show, he's like, just pretend we're sitting at a bar and having a beer and just chatting about stuff. So that's what kind of.
And Dave and I were like, no problem with that. Teri, let me throw this to you. First, introduce the world, and Ghana's watching, as you know. Charlottesville and Central Virginia watching, about the Charlottesville Climate Collaborative.
So, thanks so much for having me on. We aim to elevate climate action, bring it to greater heights, as Dave said when I walked in. This is one of the most pressing issues, if not the most pressing issue of our time. And so we want to have a stronger local solutions approach, a community-based approach. We want everybody to be involved in this issue. So,
What is going on, and this is, keep the sizzle reel going with Teri Kent here, what is going on Thursday night with a fabulous awards banquet that I think is the marquee event of the day?
So we're very excited to invite everyone out to the Better Business Challenge Awards Night. So this is the program that we have for businesses and nonprofits to become involved, save energy, innovate around sustainability, and demonstrate climate leadership in our community. So you are one of our fabulous special guest presenters.
I can't wait. So my suit is over there getting ready for dry cleaning. Literally.
Awesome.
Can I wear sandals to the event, or
I
wear them every day.
It's 21st century.
So that's okay? Are you sure?
Absolutely.
Okay, so keep going.
You be you.
That is who I am.
And you're going to give away, I brought a prop.
Ooh.
So you're going to give away one of our, this is unveiling.
That's big time.
This is big time. This is just for you.
Okay.
That I'm doing
Teri
this.
Kent. Thank you.
Took it out of the box. I've covered it with our winner. So these businesses, almost 100 businesses and nonprofits, schools, churches were involved over the past year, taking action from our energy scorecard. So over 40 things that every business can do, including probably I Love CVille.
Yeah. Okay, that's a hint,
right, yeah.
Sure, get your ass in gear type thing here. Okay.
And on Thursday, we're going to award over a dozen businesses and nonprofits and a whole bunch. It's going to be fun. Queued up some music that I think people will enjoy, and got a great lineup of presenters. So, yeah.
Are you going to let me freestyle up there?
No.
You're not going to let me freestyle? Why can I not freestyle? Come on. I wanted to try to persuade you on air.
It is.
With thousands of people watching right now.
Well, it's tightly scripted. My goal is that...
Because of time.
Because you know how awards night... I have two teenagers. My son just graduated from Monticello High School. And awards night, every parent's dread. You want to see your son go up there, but it's like, how long am I going to sit and listen and clap? So my goal is to make it fun and engaging and not to have people sit more than 90 minutes.
I love it. Who are some of the guest speakers? Who are some of the guests, the MC and the presenters?
Dave Koehn is our guest MC. I'm super excited to have him on, Voice of the Cavs. And we'll have Mayor Walker, Wes Bellamy. We'll have TomTom's founder, Paul Byer, giving out one of our awards, the Chamber of Commerce president, Elizabeth Cromwell. She's rocking the chamber in her new position, so we're excited to have her. And we're also having a teenager, which I think is very cool. She is focused, climate active youth.
Okay.
And so that's really one of our big stories from this season. Just the tremendous amount of youth involvement and the cool things that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's started the Swedish youngster Greta Thunberg, who has really created this global movement. I mean, it just gives me chills seeing youth all around the world saying, "Hey, politics." Speaking of politics, like if our political leaders aren't going to step up on this, we are demanding it. We want action. So it's exciting.
I saw on the downtown mall youth, and I think they were in high school, leading a march down the downtown mall. Sally Hudson was a part of this. Apolitically, though, but obviously that gave her some political capital being a part of this march. But marching down the mall, do you remember this?
Yeah, on a Friday.
Yeah. Talk to me about that. What happened?
So
it was awesome.
This is what's happening. Students are walking out on Fridays. Of course, school's out now. But towards the latter part of the year, this was a movement, Fridays for Future, hashtag Fridays for Future, youth everywhere walking out of school and saying, hey, let's do something about this. So it's been exciting. We've had, in the Better Business Challenge, we've got 7 schools involved. So private schools, but also Albemarle County Public Schools. So we're seeing youth really stepping up on this issue and kind of putting the adults to task.
I love it. We're going to get Dave in the mix and how it ties into what he's doing. We have a question from one of our viewers for Teri. Yeah. Abby says, Teri, who do you give special props to in the solar businesses here in Charlottesville to have homeowners talk to? Greta is a young hero for sure. So she wants to know about the solar businesses. Good question.
Yeah. Well, we have Sun Tribe Solar, Segura Solar, Sunday Solar. Those 3 were in the Better Business Challenge. They help support and sponsor our effort. They've done a lot of the solar installations. I was just on the phone with Segura this morning, trying to get some stats for Thursday night on just the great environmental impact, like how many kilowatt hours these organizations are saving us and really reducing our climate pollution at the local level. That's who I'm going to give shout outs to.
I love it. I love it. And that sizzle reel there with Teri Kent from start to finish. Sizzle reel is a highlight reel or an approachable clip.
Okay.
That we put across our network for extra exposure. How does what she's doing tie into what you're doing?
Yeah, so in fact, we just had a meeting with a couple of the staff people from the Climate Collaborative and myself just a few weeks ago, talking about ways that the world of affordable housing can and should interact with the world of clean energy and environmental sustainability. And so one of the initiatives to come out of that dialogue, which is an ongoing dialogue, has to do with working with landlords who are offering, who accept housing vouchers. And one way we could incentivize more landlords to accept housing vouchers, because we don't have enough that do, is to offer them free energy assessments and participation in some of the energy upgrades, the resources that are available for energy upgrades, as a sort of inducement for them to accept a housing voucher. So it becomes a win-win for the lower income family that needs housing and for the environment. And so, and for the landlords whose utility costs will go down as a result. So it's that's the kind of, I think, thinking that we need to see is, affordable housing is obviously a huge issue. Climate protection is a huge issue. There can be a lot of overlap and should be a lot of overlap between those worlds.
And energy costs going up, energy with the climate, the warmer days per year that are happening, it adds that extra burden onto affordable housing folks. So we're really excited that actually City Council tonight, Leap and my colleague Claire and my director Susan Cruz will be there tonight at City Council. They'll be presenting that pilot program, so I'm super excited about that.
I love it. Shannon Cruz Ransom, welcome to the show. She's the barkeep at one of my favorite watering holes, Peloton Station. Bellamy Brown now watching. Bellamy, if you just tuned in, we encourage you to tune in to catch the beginning of the show on ilovecville.com. We talk some strategy and how it pertains to you. I would like to throw Andre Xavier, CVille Hop on Tour is watching. Chrissy Benninger, the owner of Bluegrass Grill, is tuning in. Ivan from his Zocalo restaurant watching now. A lot of business owners watching right now. Amy Carter from the Heart Walk tuning in. A couple stories broke over the weekend.
Yeah.
First, the Dewberry Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
the Larimore.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He rebranded. Right. Maybe he rebranded because his name kind of is stinking a little bit in this market. This is a sizzle reel that needs to happen. The third and final one. So I'm going to get out of the way and throw it to you. Is it the Larimore?
Larimore.
Larimore.
Yeah.
The Larimore Hotel is now being considered by Dewberry's development team as a condo or apartment type concept, where it goes from a hotel and it pivots to 8 units, potentially for rent or for sale. Personally, I'm of the mindset, and I'll throw it to you, that this is smoke and mirrors, BS, almost a ruse to get us distracted by something else so he could have more runway to figure out what his long-term plan is with this without catching short-term heat. Your thoughts on this topic?
You may well be right. I hadn't heard the 8 figure until just now. So my understanding was that they were going to take what was supposed to be...
They were going to single floor units.
Right. Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, I hadn't heard that part. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is a guy who, Bloomberg called him the emperor of empty lots. And
we've added extorting emperor of empty lots.
And it could be one more delay tactic to try to ratchet up pressure on local government to give him all kinds of tax breaks and subsidies and free parking and whatnot. So I don't have a whole lot of trust in his company and in him to, step up and finish this thing the way that he had promised to do it back in 2016, 2015. We're not seeing a whole lot of good faith effort on his part to honor his commitments, and that's very frustrating, I know, for the community. But if this is the way that he can make his financing work to get the project done, then let's see if he can make it happen.
I honestly wonder if he has the financing in place
right.
at this point, because
You
it's
have
been
to
so
wonder,
long.
yeah.
And he's paying taxes and taxes.
Right.
I know you were a little more in the neutral wheelhouse,
Oh, God, you're
apolitical.
going to put me on the spot, aren't you?
Dewberry Hotel. What do you think? I mean, you love Charlottesville.
I love Charlottesville,
Yeah.
and it's a scourge. I mean, it's frustrating. It really is. I mean, when you have so much pride in this community, the downtown mall, people coming here from all over and going, what is that? Yes, I'd like more recycling on the downtown mall, but I'd also love to see that improve. And so, interesting. Yeah, I'm not going to have a take
Okay.
on this one.
I think your take was I wanted to look better.
Yes.
Is that fair?
That's fair.
That's a good take. I wanted to look better as well. I want to throw this to you is, we need, obviously, affordable housing.
Yes.
I don't think this is going to be, and this may be an opinion that people disagree with, I don't think this is going to be an affordable housing structure.
No.
It's downtown.
It doesn't really lend itself to affordable housing unless
Right.
there's some kind of a deep subsidy that is attached to it. But I'm not sure that that's ever
That's going to
been-
happen.
Right. Now, interestingly, though, the project that was envisioned for the site before Halsey Minor and Lee Danielson got the site was some of those little micro efficiencies that Oliver Kutner was kicking around for the glass building. He had also at one point talked about doing some of those on this site. Now that's a kind of housing, is primarily targeted for people who work downtown who aren't making 6 figures, but need a small, modest accommodations that are reasonably priced. I'd love to see that kind of a product downtown. It doesn't necessarily require much in the way of public subsidy, but just a small, efficiency, affordable.
Oliver Kutner's micro units.
Yeah. But short
Kathy
of that,
Galvin struck that down. Am I right on that?
that was for the glass building.
That's for the glass building.
That was sort of
Yeah.
version 2 of that.
Right.
But there was a proposal early on to do that at the site, which had been known as the Landmark, now the Dewberry, now Larimore, and it never really got anywhere. But I think that would have been a compelling product. But I don't see, at this point, making the financing working for affordable units.
Yeah.
Again, unless there's a deep subsidy attached.
Right.
And if you're going to deeply subsidize units...
Unless we're getting like a Hunter Craig biscuit run type of situation going on. Right?
Yeah, right.
We got some
right.
serious tax breaks for that.
Yeah.
To skedaddle and get out of that.
Serious tax breaks, yeah. They're very well connected politically.
Yeah. Let me throw this to you and we get Terry in the mix. I got to think, just as a businessman here, I got to think he is a ridiculous businessman. Does things not in a very honest way. Extortion, pretty much. Blackmail.
Yeah.
And Abby's calling him a rat. I agree, he's a rat. Heather D is watching right now in Fluvanna County. Danny Hastings in Scottsville.
I wish Abby would say what she really means sometimes.
Abby, say what you really mean, and I'll relay it on air. I've got to think it's got to be a hotel. And a hotel in that location, downtown, would be one of the most fully occupied hotels in the city because of its location, to the tune of probably like $450 a night.
Yeah, I think it would be. It would
crush.
do good business down there. And when I was working with the parking center, we were trying to figure out how to make the parking work for the hotel, and we had a good solution for that. So, apartments, I'm not sure that's the best answer, but again, if he doesn't have the financing to do a hotel, and if that's what it's going to take to finish the building, then...
As long as it's energy efficient and
Right.
microgreens in the lobby, like
Solar panels.
solar panels,
on top.
I'm in.
Yeah, get a garden on there.
Yeah.
Teri Kent, I like your style right there. Always thinking green. What happened? Can you give us some background on what happened? We talked about this. Was it 72 parking spaces in Water Street Garage he needed?
Roughly,
Went down
yeah.
to the bottom of the ninth inning, and Dr. Wes Bellamy changed his vote at the last second, and it ended up losing 2-3. Michael Payne's coalition had some influence there because they were doing a protest outside the building, and we had a late second change.
And it wasn't so much on the parking issue. I think the parking was one they were willing to swallow. As a taxpayer, I'm not sure I agreed with that, but they were willing to swallow that. But it was more the tax subsidy that I think really rankled some people. Here's a guy who says he's worth $500 million.
Right.
Why are the working class people of Charlottesville, who are paying their property taxes and their sales taxes and their meals taxes, subsidizing a guy who's worth $500 million, who says he's worth $500 million? That is what Michael's group was really rankled about, and I think rightly so.
So what do we do?
Well, I have said on this show before, I think the answer is the city should assemble a group of investors or buyers and buy him out, pay him to go away. And not to have city money in it, but for the city to sort of behind the scenes proactively. We've got a lot of people in this town, and some of them are pretty well-known names, who could easily buy him out at what he paid for and give him a little profit and see him on his way, and then get it done. Now, again, I don't know if... of course, he would play hardball and try to get the best price possible, but I just think that's, to me, the most viable solution.
Kimberly Lamal, welcome to the program. Jonathan says, Dave, I love that answer. Give it a like, give it a share on any channel you're watching. Welcome Robert Gray, Carol Schwab Barnett watching, Ray Cadell. That's the end of the Dewberry Sizzle Reel. Teri, I'm going to throw this to you. Downtown Charlottesville, with what you are doing, how have you seen the essence or the foundation or the fabric of downtown Charlottesville? Like, you've seen it positive, going in the right direction? Talk to us about what you're seeing with downtown Charlottesville.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think for what I'm doing and for, sustaining your operations, greening your operations, I think there's a lot of interest there. Firefly, you'll be interested in this. Firefly is one of our first Green Restaurant Association businesses. So that means that they're Melissa Meese.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, so this is so cool. Green Restaurant Association certifies a business for looking at their operations, seeing how they can save. I mean, we know that in restaurant industry, the owners talk a lot about food waste and all the different resources that it takes to run their business. So she's looking at it from top to bottom and figuring out how she can save. She got Tier 1 certification, so congrats to Firefly. And I think there's like I said, a lot of great momentum, interest on the part of our nonprofits that are here in the downtown area, United Way, Southern Environmental Law Center that has 2 headquarters here. They do this as a part of their work, of course, but this is a chance to look at their operations, look right in their backyard, and see what they can do to improve. So, yeah.
Love that answer, and I did not know that about Firefly, and I love Firefly, very family and kid-friendly. Love the loaded tater tots. Love that place.
I'm a big Firefly fan as well. It's
That's right around the corner
right around the corner from you. And one other thing that I think is getting a lot more traction is looking at the role that our forests play in mitigating impacts of climate change and reducing emissions. And so I think we're starting to see more interest in trees and tree planting and taking a new approach to forest management. And and we haven't been always very stellar in that. We just clear-cut 50,000 trees over at Ragged Mountain Natural Area a few years ago, which is exactly the wrong direction in terms of climate impacts. But I do think there's some interest, particularly in the city, for tree planting and tree preservation, and that's a good thing for many reasons, quality of life, et cetera, but certainly helps with this whole issue.
I love that. Harris Tolver putting a picture of
Look at that.
the Blu-ray. This is why Harris Tolver is getting the big
dude.
dollars. Harris Tolver, you're a good man right there. Western Albemarle and JMU's finest, Harris Tolver right there. How about, so I'll relay, oh, look at that. That's the picture you sent us.
Yeah.
Thursday at the Paramount
Nice.
for the Green Awards. I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Going to roll out the green carpet.
That's right.
I'm going to throw this to you, Dave, and
Yeah.
this is something that, JoJo was hammering me on.
We love JoJo.
Yeah, we love JoJo.
Yeah.
But, we talk about all topics here.
Yeah.
She wants to know about what's going down in West Haven and what we can do to potentially improve West Haven.
Yes.
There's a photo that's been circulating, and I saw it on Mayor Walker's page. I saw it on Bellamy Brown's page. It's this one here, which I'm sure you've seen.
Yeah.
Of it looks dilapidated.
I think that was one of the ones that was hit by a tree last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
There was
a dilapidated public housing unit.
yeah.
Your thoughts on what's going on?
Yeah, so
Anywhere you want to go.
So my job with the Charlottesville Redevelopment Housing Authority is looking at the future, the long-term future of all of our public housing sites, including ultimately West Haven. And so, it's a multi-year process. We're starting with Crescent Halls. That was the one that was in most need, and because of all the crazy issues with that building and the systems failing, and so we just on Friday got word that we were approved for about 17 million worth of low-income housing tax credits for our first couple projects, which is enormous. And Dave Matthews Band has pitched in $5 million. The city has pledged $15 million over 5 years. So we're pulling the money together to start this process. Now, in the meantime, the residents are saying, well, what about? So yes, we're all on board with the idea of this long-term redevelopment effort, and they're excited about that. But in the meantime, what about properties like West Haven, like some of our other sites that are in disrepair and that where residents don't have high-quality housing? What can you do in the meantime to fix those up? And so we have what Joy Johnson, who's the founder of our citywide resident association, calls the parallel track, which is, so we're planning for redevelopment tomorrow, but we've got to be planning and fixing the issues today, right? And at least keeping them in decent shape until those properties are fully redeveloped. And so the city just recently dedicated some money for that parallel track effort. I don't know about that particular unit. You show me what the holdup there is in terms of the tree damage from
Because that's a
last
city-owned
year.
property.
Well, it's housing authority. It's owned by the housing
Right.
authority. It's not owned by the city.
Okay.
I think there were 1 or 2 properties where they had tree limbs that fell on them last year. My guess is those are in our what we call our substantial rehab bucket, which is we have a number of units throughout our inventory that are in need of major repair, not just sort of keeping them livable and making them more decent until we redevelop. So those substantial rehab properties, unfortunately, we don't have the funding from Congress. That the housing authority is funded primarily from the federal government, and we don't have the funding from Congress to do as all these substantial rehabs that we want to do. But I can't really talk to that particular unit that JoJo mentioned. I know FAR, the Public Housing Association of Residents, is developing an advocacy effort around this parallel track initiative and around getting more funding, getting more resources, getting more attention to addressing these immediate needs. So that residents have confidence that we're not leaving them behind as we plan for the future.
This is an interesting question. It comes up a lot. Welcome Lee Capshaw to the program. Charlene Munford, welcome to the program. What is the difference between public housing and Section 8 housing?
Yeah, great question. So public housing is owned publicly. It's owned by the government. In Charlottesville, public housing is owned by the Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority, CRHA, which is a sort of a quasi local government entity. Its board is appointed by the city council, but its funding is from the federal government, so it's somewhat local, somewhat federal. And it owns 376 units of public housing spread across 7 neighborhoods. So West Haven is the largest one: Crescent Hall, South First Street, Mickey Drive, Riverside, 6th Street.
Look at you.
Madison, I think that's it. And now, on top of that, there's a separate federal housing program. Used to be called Section 8. It's now under a different name. But anyhow, Section 8 housing tends to be privately owned, but it gets a federal subsidy. And those can either be vouchers that an individual can take out on the open market and rent anywhere, assuming they can find a landlord that accepts them, or it can be a project-based voucher that goes with the unit. And so the largest project-based Section 8 community in Charlottesville is Friendship Court. Between Friendship Court and then Greenstone or Bluestone on 5th, which used to be Blue Ridge Commons, those are the two largest Section 8 project-based vouchers, privately owned, publicly subsidized. So there is a difference, but at the end of the day, from the resident's perspective, it's very similar.
This guy, what do you say about this guy?
You know your stuff.
I know, God. Know your stuff, dude.
Well,
Seriously, JoJo even says thank you.
Well, no, JoJo has done more than almost anybody to bring attention to some of the...
This is one of her missions.
Yeah, no, she's very passionate about it. If it weren't for her efforts, I'm not sure we would be where we are now with getting Crescent Halls fixed up. That's a $17 million project right there. So, and of course, she wasn't in it alone. She had a group of people that were working with her and advocating, and of course, FAR has been advocating, but most importantly, the residents of Crescent Halls have been advocating. And this is a resident-directed redevelopment effort. And when the residents say, we've got some serious problems here, we need to pull together some resources to invest in our community, we're going to step up and make that happen.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Give it a like. Give it a share. Carol Schwab Barnett has this comment. An old family friend's father, a veteran, is buried in the old cemetery in Penn Park near the golf course. She took flowers there on Father's Day, and it says it's overgrown. It has not been maintained for years, which is one reason she has not buried her mother next to him. Wow. Thank you for sharing that perspective. We also have some folks chiming in, and you've answered on this, on the Vietnam Memorial and its inaccessibility. Yeah. So I'm on that working group that's trying to. You're on that group?
I was appointed to that working
recently?
group. Yeah.
Awesome.
To try to figure out a solution for the memorial. We had our first meeting last week or the week before with Mike Murphy, assistant city manager, and Brian Daly, head of Parks and Rec, and a couple other people, to try to figure out what are some options and what the price tag might be and what the pros and cons would be. So there's some brainstorming going on now and some research going on. We're hopefully going to lead to a concrete solution, because right now the solution that's in place now is just not tenable.
The solution that's in place now is park at the rescue squad and try to play Frogger across the street.
Right.
And then go down a grassy knoll.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. But so I went over there to meet with a couple of vets not too long ago, and one of them said, he's in a wheelchair. He's like, I'm not even going to try it. It would be putting my life at risk to try to navigate. So he just stayed in his car in the parking lot, which is sad.
It is sad.
We had another situation recently where somebody actually wanted to visit the memorial. Again, his wife is in a wheelchair. He just pulled up right off of the parkway, right onto the sidewalk. Yeah. Parked his car
and put the flashers on.
Right.
Yeah. And that's an accident waiting to happen.
Right. Yeah. But there's got to be a better answer. We're convinced there's a better answer, and it may take a few dollars, but I think we owe it to those 28 men who lost their lives in that war to do this right.
It's the first memorial, oldest memorial in the country.
That's right.
28 who have fallen that have ties to the Charlottesville and Central Virginia community being honored over at Dogwood. Yeah. And the inaccessibility issue is a problem because some of the folks that are trying to honor the men who have fallen are up there in age or are dealing with things like a wheelchair where they cannot get to the wall, which seems tough. Yeah. Will and Erica Taylor from the Chick-fil-A in Fashion Square Mall watching right now. You're getting some props, and then I want to throw you in the mix as we wind down the show so we can get the who, what, when, where, why again of Thursday, so we get as much attention as possible. Leah Friedel.
Yeah.
I wish our president was as smart as Dave Norris. This is what leadership looks like, folks. Dave Norris, job well done.
Thank you.
Which I agree. Joseph Baden, hello again. Susan Lee, John Charlotte, Catherine, Karen Morgan, Todd Fiskin. A lot of props for you.
Good people. All those good people.
They are good people.
I'm going to throw in props. It was Better World Betty's idea, and I had this idea for Better World Betty, and I saw you at Mud House.
That's right.
And you were the mayor, and he's like, "What are you up to?" And I'm like, "I'm going to tell you." And you were so supportive. So
tell us that story.
I
love these kind of stories.
We did a big joint. It was at South Street, wasn't it?
Yep, we did a joint launch of BetterWorldBetty.org. And my initiative to help people go green in easy, fast, fun, and friendly ways. And the Green City website of Charlottesville, and it was at South Street before it was renovated.
That's right.
And so,
This is a reunion of sorts.
It's a reunion. Yeah.
Well, we're the Saints ponies.
Seriously, right.
That's what we're missing.
No, but Teri has been in the trenches on this stuff for years and years and years. Been a real great advocate, and the thing that I always appreciate about Teri is, as she sort of indicated, she makes it easy. She makes it accessible for people to do the right things and make the right choices on behalf of our environment and our world. And so, kudos to you.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Herb says, great show. Abby says, so disrespectful to these veterans. Can we give you a chance to plug Thursday one more time?
Yes, so Thursday night at the Paramount Theater, 6 to 8 p.m. We'll have light snacks and beverages for y'all and lots of fun as we celebrate climate leadership here in our community. So thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for having me on.
Open to anyone?
Open to everyone.
Can we get a sneak peek of what may happen?
Well,
can I go over there and try to? I wouldn't do that to you.
No, over 500 actions were taken by nearly 100 businesses. So we're going to celebrate just everybody and anyone we can on that stage in a fun way. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Thursday, guys, we're very excited about this. A final word from Dave Norris on the I Love CVille show. Anywhere you want to go?
Well, I just encourage people to stay involved. We obviously summer is usually the doldrums when it comes to politics, and so. But after Labor Day, things will pick up again, and I hope people do stay involved and pay attention to what's going on, because obviously June 11th was a big day in local politics, but the big enchilada is November 5th, and there's an opportunity to really change your community in a better way. So I hope people.
Yeah, and C3 is actually on our blog doing a environmental forum of all the candidates. So we ask the candidates the same questions, and we'll go ahead and publish that forum and their answers leading up to the November election. So it's a great way to stay informed.
I love it. I love it. We got a comment coming in, and we'll close on this. Ray Cadell, real estate mogul and musician mogul, says maybe a show about Section 8 program with a landlord, property manager, government rep would help all of us learn more. It's an interesting program that could be a lot better with more landlords on board, but there are obvious challenges. I mean, I think one of the main challenges is just education and knowledge.
Right. But Ray is well versed in this stuff
he is.
As much as anybody I know, and he actually
he has tenants.
If I was to say, if you're going to have that discussion, he should be one of your panelists, because he actually has some specific ideas that I think are really workable for improving the program, cutting some of the regulatory, issues, dealing with some of the regulatory issues. But Ray's a great guy. And
Abby says, Teri, thank you for all you're doing for our community and wanting us all to do better and making the community better. We need more Teri Kents.
I agree.
Stephen Lewis Warner, a great show. Thanks for all the dedication to our community. Watch from start to finish. Interesting show tomorrow. We'll close on this. Roger Voyenze is going to join us. Yeah. Did I say it wrong?
You said Voyenze.
Roger
Voyenze.
Thank you. Real estate agent extraordinaire.
He prefers Roger, though.
Yeah.
You should rib him on that.
Did he own the first Tesla in Charlottesville?
That's right.
He will tell you.
Yeah.
He will.
He's got a great looking Tesla, right?
Yeah.
He will tell us about that. He's excited to talk about the ice rink that he's trying to drive to grounds. Excited about the real estate project he's doing on High Street. Yeah. Excited to spotlight the history and the evolution of the downtown mall.
That dude, he's a great guy, and he knows so much about everything.
He really does.
And he came to Ghana with us one year.
Really?
Yeah.
So Roger Voyenze.
Voyenze,
damn it. Voyenze. Roger
Voyenze.
I better get this right before tomorrow. Is on tomorrow's show to talk Charlottesville. I love you guys. I love doing this show. A lot of people watching. Love connecting with you guys. Teri, you crushed it. Can I get a high five? Come on.
All right, Teri. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. We close the show the same way, guys. We ask everybody to embody the golden rule. We don't make it about religion. We just make it about treating others with respect. Treat others how you want to be treated yourself, and watch the viral impact it will have across our community. Harris Tolber and Judah Wickower help make the show possible. And yes, Lauren Linsky exists. She helps make the program possible. You have not seen her. She will see her on Thursday night.
All right.
I will make sure to send you a photo in front of it. Do we have a branded wall?
We might.
Okay, all right. I got to send a photo to Dave. He saw her at Timberwood Tap House. She's watching right now. I'm Jerry Miller. It's the I Love CVille Show. We will see you tomorrow at 12:30 with Roger V. on the I Love CVille Show. Have a good day, guys. Good work. It was so fun.
That was awesome.
Good work.
Thank you so
Good work.
much.
Seriously, you did a great job.
Yeah.
One more thing is we're going to get a photo.
Oh, great.
Hero pick.